into a pot of milk, add your butter with your salt and sugar. I'll leave all the ingredients and measurements in the membership. And then you're going to place it on a stove and melt your butter with milk mixture. You only want to mix this until your butter is fully melted and started to boil. As soon as it happens, you're going to take it off the heat and then go ahead and add your flour. Okay, so add all your dry ingredients and start mixing it together until it becomes like this. It should look like sort of like mashed potatoes. Once all the flour is absorbed with your liquid, you're going to place the pan back on the stove, and on a low to medium heat you're going to really cook out the mixture. This is a really important step as you want to dry out your dough, and if it's going to be wet, the eclairs are not going to work out. So you want to cook this for a good few minutes until actually you see that the bottom is starting to brown, so almost like it's so dry and there's no moisture anymore. Once you reach that perfect consistency, you're going to place it into your stand mixer and leave the mixture to fully cool down. Over here I've got my eggs, and what you want to do, you want to blitz your eggs into a nice smooth mixture. This will really help us to make them nice and even and add them into our dough at the small stages, and making sure that we get both egg whites and egg yolks. So do that and set it aside. To cool down your mixture faster, you can use a stand mixer and basically start mixing it on a low speed. And once the temperature reaches below 40 degrees Celsius, you're going to slowly start adding your eggs. You see, I'm adding a little bit at a time, and I just keep mixing, and I'm mixing on a medium, like low speed. Once the eggs have incorporated, I'm going to add more eggs. You basically want to add around 1 egg at a time and just keep mixing and seeing if you get the consistency that we're looking for. We're going to look for very nice smooth consistency. I will show you obviously how it needs to look. And here is how the final mixture will look. If you shake it, it falls off the spatula, and it's very, very stringy and smooth, just like so. You want to mix this couple more times with your spatula just to make sure it's a perfect consistency. When it falls down, it kind of like goes back into the bowl. You see how many eggs I have left? I haven't used all my eggs, which is a sign that you don't need to use all your eggs. Now wrap your pastry dough and set this aside to cool down. Over here, I'm going to use a star-shaped nozzle. You can also use star-shaped or plain nozzle, up to you. And I've placed my silicone mat over baking tray, and I've flipped it over. We want to use the back of our tray. Add your nozzle into your piping bag and set this aside. Our dough is ready, so just scoop the dough into your large piping bag and make sure it's nice and full, just like that. And then you want to go around with cookie cutter and just make sure there's no air, and just wrap your piping bag nice and tight so it looks just like that. Now pipe your eclairs using anything that you can measure it up to. So I'm using my cake scraper as a measuring tool, just making sure they're all the same size. You can make them bigger or smaller, but this is the standard size. I will leave all the measurements, of course. So gently just pipe it up and down by holding your piping bag and going down. Once you've piped all your eclairs, we're gonna spray them with some cooking oil, just like that. And then you're gonna add some icing sugar on top as well. This will help them to create that nice crust when we bake them later. And these go in a freezer for a couple of hours. After a couple of hours, once they've frozen, you're going to transfer them onto your baking tray lined with some parchment paper, just like so, and leave the space around. You're going to add them into your super hot oven and then turn the heat off completely and bake them until they're done. Once they're done, they will look like that. They will be nice and puffy, a light golden color on top. Once they're baked, we immediately want to place them onto a cooling rack. And what's important is that we want to get rid of any extra hot air inside of them. So we want to prick them with a toothpick and then turn them around this way. It's gonna let the steam out and they're not gonna fall apart or become soggy. Look how gorgeous they are. They're just looking absolutely perfect. So just prick each pastry. You don't need to prick a lot, just a little bit for the steam to come out, and leave them to fully cool down. Over here, I've got my gelatin. I'm gonna add some cold water and mix everything through, and then set this aside to bloom for 5 minutes. Now over here, I've got my eggs and sugar. We're just gonna mix these two together until you get nice thick mixture, just like so. You can also use an electrical whisk because you're gonna need to whisk this for a good 5 minutes until the color changes to nice pale yellow, just like that. I have placed my milk onto a stove and I'm just gonna cook this until the boiling point. As soon as you see the bubbles like that, you're gonna take it off the heat and add a little bit into your sugar and egg mixture. This is really important to add a little bit at a time, otherwise you are going to overcook your eggs and you're gonna have scrambled eggs instead of the custard. So keep adding your mixture a little bit at a time and mixing. You might get a lot of foam from whisking, and that's okay, don't worry about it. I have a little trick for you how we can get rid of that. So once you've mixed all your milk, sugar and eggs together, you're going to sieve this through a sieve and pour it back into your pan. Then take your pan back onto the stove and we're gonna cook the custard for a couple of minutes until it starts to thicken up more. And I just keep whisking the mixture. Just keep whisking the custard until it starts to thicken up. You want to cook this on a low heat so you don't overcook this, and just be really careful. So once it's done, you're going to take it off the heat and then go ahead and add your vanilla extract and your bloomed gelatin. Add that in while it's hot and mix everything together. The gelatin will melt instantly, so just keep going. Keep mixing. Then you want to go ahead and add your chopped butter. It's better if you have your butter at room temperature, that way it will melt faster. And just keep mixing until your butter is fully melted and your custard is nice and smooth, just like that. You're going to transfer your custard into a different bowl and set this aside. And then of course, for extra vanilla flavor, I recommend adding some vanilla seeds or vanilla beans to really elevate that vanilla flavor. Mix it through and then place cling film on top, and we're gonna leave this to cool down completely. Once your custard has cooled down, you're gonna take off the cling film, and it's gonna be pretty set because we've added gelatin inside. And you're gonna go ahead and whisk everything together with an electrical whisker. Then add a little bit of double a heavy cream inside to really loosen the mixture, and just mix everything together until it becomes nice and creamy. You can really control the consistency by adding some more cream. Now go ahead and add your custard into a piping bag with a plain nozzle, just like that, a small plain nozzle so it fits into your eclair, and then start piping your eclairs. Just take each eclair, make a little incision at the end, pipe until you feel it gets quite full, and then just repeat that with the rest of them. You want to make 3 incisions into each eclair and fill it up until it's full. Now we're going to make our ganache coating. So into your hot cream, add your dark chocolate, mix everything together until it's fully melted, and your chocolate ganache coating is done. And now we're going to go ahead and dip our eclairs into our chocolate ganache. Look how gorgeous it looks. Place your eclairs onto a cooling rack, just like that, and decorate it the way you want it. I've added some white chocolate and some golden dust. They are so yummy. Let's cut inside and show you. This is such a classical version of it. Chocolate and vanilla custard. You can't get any better than that. My sister goes wild for these ones. I hope you try this recipe and enjoy.